The National Desk, America's News, now.
From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Gatton. We're glad you're with us. On this weekend edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week and look ahead at what to expect. Starting with the 4 big stories we've been following this week. Tearful testimony. Hear how families of loved ones being held captive by Hamas describe their pain. Plus, deadly drive, what 2 troopers were doing when they were hit and killed on a Las Vegas highway. Then, phone flap. We'll explain why police departments are issuing warnings about a new iPhone feature. And later, hospitals swamped with young patients in China as a virus surges. Is there any reason for parents in the U.S. to be concerned? The CDC director weighs in. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is urging Israeli leaders to reduce the potential for civilian deaths in the war with Hamas. Blinken says there needs to be designated safe areas for civilians to avoid collateral damage. Hostages' families being held by Hamas terrorists shared their heartbreaking stories on Capitol Hill. Our Janae Bowens explains.
Unimaginable that we find comfort in the fact that he was taken hostage and not murdered.
Orna and Ronan Nutra say their lives have completely been turned upside down since their 22-year-old son, Omer, was abducted by Hamas.
And has been held hostage 54 days today. 54 days since the last sign of life. Can you imagine?
Omer is an American-Israeli soldier, along with 19-year-old Itai Hen, who is also being held hostage.
We live in a different universe than you do. We celebrated Thanksgiving with an empty chair in our table. We want to be whole again with our families.
Itai's father, Ruby Hen, is urging Congress and the international community to get the dozens of hostages not yet released home as soon as possible.
Time is running out.
The Nutras and the Hens were just 2 of the several families who testified during a House Foreign Affairs Committee roundtable Wednesday. The stories of the unpredictable plight of these hostages sparked an often rare sight on Capitol Hill: bipartisanship.
And I will say, I'm proud of this administration for standing with Israel. I will not rest. I know the ranking member will not rest, and members on this committee will not rest until we bring every American back home.
The horrors of Hamas, not just a focus here in the House, but in the Senate, too.
These families have already endured the worst traumas imaginable, and yet now they have still been ripped apart with no idea when they will see their fathers and brothers and sons again.
The families are demanding proof of life, medical conditions updates, and the ability for Red Cross workers to visit the hostages.
Hopefully we could be whole again.
In the meantime, they hold on to the hope that they will see their loved ones again. On Capitol Hill, I'm Janae Bowens.
Janae, thank you. And more than 54,000 pounds of supplies from the U.S. is on its way to Gaza. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder says the aid was delivered to Egypt on Tuesday and it will be transported on the ground into Gaza. Ryder says the shipments contain medical supplies, warm clothing, food, and nutrition assistance.
Additional flights are expected in the coming days, and this aid is in addition to the more than 500,000 pounds of food assistance delivered by the United States last week.
And Brigadier General Ryder says United Nations agencies in Gaza will be in charge of distributing the aid. A new poll by the Anti-Defamation League found nearly 3/4 of Jewish college students experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism on campus since the start of the fall semester. And now some Jewish groups are taking the matter to federal court. The National Desk, Kayla Gaskins reports.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sending a strong warning Wednesday.
To us, the Jewish people, the rise of anti-Semitism is a crisis, a 5-alarm fire that must be extinguished.
Schumer's comments come as nearly 3/4 of Jewish college students experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism on campus since the start of the fall semester. 46% report feeling physically unsafe. The Brandeis Center and Jewish Americans for Fairness in Education filing a federal lawsuit against UC Berkeley, alleging the school allowed long-standing unchecked spread of anti-Semitism. A statement from the dean of Berkeley's law school saying the suit paints a picture of the law school that's stunningly inaccurate and ignores the First Amendment. At Harvard, the Department of Education opening an investigation into anti-Semitism on campus. An attorney on the case telling Fox Digital they're looking into whether Harvard failed to respond to alleged harassment of students based on their national origin. The issue trickling down to high schools. At Hillcrest in New York City, 400 students rioting in the hallways demanding the administration fire a Jewish teacher for supporting Israel.
Violence, hate, and disorder have no place in our schools.
The teacher hid in a locked office until law enforcement arrived. Anti-Semitism also spilling into city council meetings. Residents of Oakland, California, making these comments earlier this week.
Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda.
The city council passed a resolution calling for a ceasefire, but did not condemn Hamas. The presidents of MIT, Harvard, and UPenn will be on Capitol Hill next week to testify before Congress and to answer questions about anti-Semitism on their campuses. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Kayla, thank you. New details. Congressman George Santos is expelled from the House of Representatives. This makes him just the 6th lawmaker in history to be kicked out of the chamber. Santos faces 23 federal criminal charges related to fraud and misused campaign funds. He has not been convicted and denies committing any crimes. Developing now, nearly 1 year after the first Twitter Files report was released, the House subcommittee investigating the weaponization of government held another hearing on what Republicans say is the federal government's involvement in social media censorship. Here's the National Desk chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of...
4 witnesses appeared before the Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, including Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, 2 of the journalists behind the release of the so-called Twitter Files.
What was the most alarming thing that you came across during your review of internal Twitter documents?
The organized stream of communication between the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the largest tech companies in the country.
The hearing comes as Subcommittee Chairman Jim Jordan now claims the Biden White House pressured Google to censor content on YouTube regarding alleged misinformation related to the pandemic and COVID-19 vaccinations.
The path for getting this information out has not been easy. Finding the truth never is.
The Twitter Files consist of leaked documents and internal communications between Twitter employees about the company's past content moderation decisions, including coverage of Hunter Biden's laptop and the 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Democrats, though, argue there is no evidence of collusion. They say the true weaponization of government is what played out during the Trump administration and expressed concern about what could happen if he's elected again.
In the past few months, Trump has said that he would reinstate the Muslim travel ban. He has vowed to use the Department of Justice to investigate his political enemies. As the first branch of government, it is our job to be a check on that kind of undemocratic, unstable rhetoric in this republic.
In their ongoing investigation of alleged social media censorship, the House Judiciary Committee has now subpoenaed 2 former Biden administration officials, former digital strategist and current deputy campaign manager Robert Flaherty, and Andrew Slavitt, who served as an advisor to the pandemic response team. In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
In the race to the White House, Republican candidate Nikki Haley has won the crucial endorsement of the Koch network. The group's super PAC, Americans for Prosperity, is one of the most powerful political organizations in the nation. Its deep pockets will now go towards Haley with the goal of defeating former President Trump in the GOP primary. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger has died. Kissinger served under both Nixon and Ford and is synonymous with U.S. foreign policy in the 1970s. He received a Nobel Peace Prize for helping arrange the end of U.S. military involvement in the Vietnam War and is credited with secret diplomacy that helped President Richard Nixon open communist China to the United States and the West. He was 100 years old. Border Patrol says criminal organizations are using dangerous tactics to smuggle migrants into El Paso. Instead of climbing the border wall or looking for weak spots along the border, a growing number of people are using storm drains to get into the U.S. from Mexico. The National Desk, Jonathan Mejia, joined Border Patrol agents to get a first-hand look at the dangerous conditions migrants are facing underground.
They just open it up and they just tell them to walk, let them in. Sometimes they don't even have a guide with them. And they just kind of tell them where to go. And they're pretty much on their own.
Efrain Mercado has been with Border Patrol for 16 years. As a member of the Confined Space Entry Team for 11 years, he says he's seen the worst of what happens when people risk everything to cross the border.
Storm drains, they take these toy guns and they spray them completely black. This is probably a toy gun. We've had a couple of people die in there. A lot of children. You know, people will do anything to get through, and the smugglers, they don't care about the life of the person.
Border Patrol says the city's drain system is like a maze. There are numerous entrances and exits, and while agents know where they are, they can't always get to them all.
We don't know about it, or we haven't checked it, and then we find out about it, and then they switch tactics. So they're really smart. They know what they're doing.
Mercado's referring to smugglers. He says they use everything they can to exploit the system. Criminal organizations use items such as crowbars, hammers, everything they can get their hands on to create space in the tunnel to smuggle migrants.
Coming up. A lot of things that stick out and scratch you up, and it's pretty nasty in there sometimes.
Border Patrol advises of the dangers of entering confined spaces like this one because they are complete in darkness and you can run into a hole like this one that can lead to several injuries.
And we've seen a lot of broken legs, a lot of injuries to the feet and head, and some of these areas are corrugated. They're not made out of cement. This is how they kind of make them keep walking or shut up, or like people who don't want to continue. This is what the things they use.
Border Patrol says the storm drains can become dangerous due to the air quality and the flash floods that forms after heavy rain. But smugglers and migrants aren't fazed by the potential dangers as they're so close to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Said what really pulls at the heartstrings is those children, you know. A lot of these are families, and they're just trying to make it through like everybody else.
And while we didn't see any migrants inside the tunnels, just last week, Border Patrol intersected 12 migrants in these storm drain systems. Reporting from West El Paso, Jonathan Mejia.
Looking at your money, the share of U.S. adults who say they can cover 6 months of expenses using their savings is lower than it was last year, down 16.5% according to a new Morning Consult poll. In addition, the share of adults who don't know how long they can live off their savings has grown to 21% from 15.5% in July of last year. Morning Consult tells Axios the uncertainty may contribute to Americans' pessimistic views on the economy. New data out shows U.S. economic growth in the third quarter was better than previously thought. The Commerce Department reports consumers helped push gross domestic product to a 5.2% annual rate from July through September, an upgrade from the previous 4.9% estimate. The revised numbers show GDP grew at its fastest quarterly rate in nearly 2 years.
Bank branches are closing up shop, 3,000 of them last year alone. I'm with Courtney from the Fact Check team. Now, we saw this happen after the financial crisis of 2008. What's behind it now?
Eugene, this really goes hand in hand with the rise of digital banking. While traditional banks are still the main place for primary bank accounts, online banks are becoming more popular. In fact, according to Bankrate, 27% of Americans use an online-only bank, and about 60% say they are very or somewhat interested in using a digital bank in the next year. Meanwhile, according to Forbes, as of last year, more than 3/4 of adults prefer to bank online or through an app.
And most big traditional banks also have mobile apps. So what's the difference between that and an online-only bank?
So other than the convenience factor and instant access, since online banks don't have physical locations, they can use that money elsewhere, like for low or no bank fees, ATM reimbursements, and attractive yields.
All right, good to know. Courtney, thanks. And for more of this Fact Check team topic, including links to Courtney's sources, scan the QR code on your screen or visit us at thenationaldesk.com.
An alleged hit-and-run driver is behind bars in Las Vegas, accused of striking and killing 2 Nevada state troopers. Police say the first responders were helping another driver on the state's busiest freeway when it happened. According to ResponderSafety.com, 51 first responders were hit by vehicles and killed nationwide last year. That includes 17 law enforcement officers, 11 fire rescue, and 18 tow truck operators. Up next on the National Desk, an uptick in illness. Chinese hospitals are full of sick kids. Why the CDC director says not to worry. And later, closing time. How many more Rite Aid stores are shutting down and where you could be looking for a new place to shop. New details. House Republicans are considering an official vote next month to authorize an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. The topic was discussed during a closed-door meeting, according to the AP. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer continues to accuse the president and his family of wrongdoing. Speaker Mike Johnson says the GOP can't get ahead of themselves.
Financial records, emails, text messages, and witness testimony reveal that the Biden family enterprise is centered on Joe Biden's political career and connections.
And to do this appropriately and to do it in a manner that upholds our constitutional responsibility requires time. It requires a sound process. You don't rush something like this. You can't.
Comer has produced financial records related to the Bidens, but so far none have provided proof of a crime, and the White House has consistently denied any wrongdoing. Former President Donald Trump is once again barred from disparaging court staff in his New York civil fraud trial. An appeals court reinstated the gag order today after it was put on hold for 2 weeks. The order was put into place by Judge Arthur Engoron in early October after Trump made comments about his law clerk on social media. Now, the judge said he now plans to enforce the restriction rigorously and vigorously. A recent surge in respiratory illness in China is not a new and novel pathogen. That's according to current CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen. Cohen testified before the House Energy and Commerce Committee in her first congressional appearance since taking over the post earlier this year. She does, however, say that CDC's office in China is keeping a close eye on the uptick.
They are having an increase in some of their respiratory illness. They're seeing it in the northern part of their country. They're seeing an uptick in their pediatric population. What we do know as of today is we do not believe this is a new or novel pathogen. We believe this is all existing, meaning COVID, flu, RSV, mycoplasma.
And Chinese officials are attributing the surge to the country's more recent lifting of pandemic-era restrictions. Up next on the National Desk, crime concerns in the nation's capital. How many the city is seeing and what some people say needs to be done to keep everyone safe and curb crime. And in the red, we're breaking down the numbers from Black Friday sales ahead right here on the National Desk. The National Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America. We start in Hawaii, where the state's tourism board is encouraging travelers to make Maui their next vacation spot.
The Hawaiian island of Maui, nicknamed the Valley Isle, is home to 160,000 people. And while Lahaina remains closed to the public after deadly wildfires claimed lives and homes, the Hawaii Tourism Authority is calling on the West Coast to help Maui get back on its feet.
If you love Maui, we'd love to welcome you back. And if you haven't been here, then it's time you came.
The Hawaii Tourism Authority says they need visitors to sustain jobs, support local business, and build up the community that heavily relies on tourism.
85% of the jobs on Maui are dependent on the visitor industry, either partially or fully. So the return of visitors is really quite critical to our recovery.
Ways to help include donating to recovery efforts, shopping local, and also voluntourism, volunteering while on your trip to Maui.
Support the local spots because that's the most generous way that you can help Maui and Maui's businesses get back on their feet.
Now over to Washington, D.C. The district has hit a grim milestone with 250 murders so far this year. According to data from the D.C. Chief Medical Examiner, this is the most murders since 2002, when the city had 278. One neighborhood representative said this year's violence calls for drastic measures.
The city is in crisis. The city is clearly in crisis. We need to activate all of our resources to protect lives. We cannot spare one district residents or visitors to horrific violence or carjackings or just seemingly unending crime.
D.C. council members have passed emergency public safety bills aimed at lowering violent crime and are in the process of making these measures permanent. In Texas, one business owner is warning about the dangers of sharing your home with rodents trying to escape the cold this winter. Bo Newlon, owner of Precision Snake and Wildlife Removal, says rodents are more than just a nuisance. Rodent feces and urine can cause a long list of health conditions such as hepatitis and salmonella. They are also a potential fire hazard.
790 homes a year are caused by wildlife, chewing on wires, stuff like that. We've seen raccoons bend the fins on the attic vents, the blades. So the blades can't spin, but it's still going. So that causes a fire hazard.
Newland says if you suspect you have rodents in your home, the best thing to do is have someone come and check it out. Holiday shopping scams coming up on the National Desk. Buyer beware.
You don't want to click on that link, even if it looks like an email you've subscribed to, even if it looks like a really great deal.
What to look out for and the retailers hackers are targeting. A new analysis from NOAA shows snowfall is on the decline globally. Scientists are blaming rising temperatures. Data from NOAA shows a 2.7% annual drop in snowfall since 1973. The global trend may be most noticeable in the area north of the tropics and south of the Arctic. Checking in on your money, Black Friday online spending hit a record $9.8 billion in the U.S., up 7.5% from a year earlier. Electronics, toys, and gaming items were the best-selling categories, according to an Adobe Analytics report. In-person shopping was also up by just 4.6% over last year. As more shoppers turn to online stores for holiday gifts, experts are warning of a spike in cybercrime. The National Desk, Angelo Brown, reports.
Security Magazine says cyber attacks increased during the holiday season, and threats like ransomware are up 30%. High-profile data breaches during the holidays at places where you shop. Remember the Target data breach 2013? The credit and debit card information of about 40 million customers stolen. Here's what Target CEO said in 2014 while trying to win back shoppers.
We are completely focused on data security. We've got a great team in place. We've built great systems.
Darktrace, a cybersecurity company, reports 30% more ransomware attacks targeting organizations during the holiday period from 2018 to 2020 compared to the monthly average. What is the number one way these cyber crooks get in?
You know, the number one way that they get in is actually through employees or through contractors who work for them.
Valerie Aubend from Accenture says retailers need to be on the lookout for supply chain weaknesses and cyber criminals setting up fake websites.
They develop legitimate websites that look like the company website, maybe a slight change in that website address. And unfortunately, it's a fake website.
Phony websites used in emails attached to coupons, all to steal your information.
Even if it looks like an email you subscribe to, even if it looks like a really great deal, you don't want to click on the link.
Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
So to come here on the National Desk, new feature frustration, how iPhone's name drop feature works and why it's prompting warnings. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. You can catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News Now.
From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Didi Gatton, and right now police departments are warning parents about a new iPhone software update that could be a safety concern for kids. The National Desk's Lena Salzbank explains.
The iOS 17 update promises to bring big updates to iPhone users around the world, including updates to music, messages, and browsing. But the update also shares it will add a feature called Name Drop.
Basically allows you to easily transfer information between devices, be it your own contact, share photos, or share other people's contacts.
According to Apple, Name Drop allows users to quickly share contact information to other nearby iPhones or Apple Watches simply by bringing the two phones close together.
It's effortlessly, all you have to do is just put the two phones head to head together.
Cybersecurity expert Amir Sachs says features like this spark fear among parents who have users that are kids and teenagers.
The police concern is about kids. I guess if a predator wanted to come in and he manages to put the phone next to each other, his phone next to a kid's phone, the fear is that the kid's details will be transferred to the predator's phone. But I don't think that fear is based on reality.
But Amir says name drop could be a more secure version of airdrop, and that the two phones need to be unlocked and both users need to give consent before sending and accepting information.
There's going to be a little pop-up that says, do you want to share your contact? And so all they have to do is just take the phone away. As long as it's more than 1 inch away, give or take, the communication is not going to happen.
The feature is automatically set to on by default after the update is completed. And while Amir suggests that parents turn the feature off, he says that education on best practices is key when keeping kids safe.
Education is number one. The school should be providing cyber education to kids about the use of phones, about the use of computers. And parents should be responsible enough to say, hey, I'm giving you a tool. Let me teach you how to use that.
In your money, President Biden says this holiday season, Americans won't have to worry about supply chain issues.
As folks start their holiday shopping, shelves are stocked. Today, our supply chains are stronger than ever, with backlogs, bottlenecks, and shipping rates at a 25-year low.
During the pandemic in 2021, supply chain snarls fueled higher inflation and led to empty shelves due to container ships waiting to dock. President Biden says he's unveiling new steps to ensure there's no repeat of that, including investing millions in the domestic production of injectable medicines and increasing data sharing between the Commerce, Energy, and Transportation departments. A monumental milestone for Amazon. The company is now the largest delivery business in the U.S. in terms of overall parcel volume, overtaking FedEx and UPS. The Wall Street Journal reports internal data from Amazon shows the company delivered more packages to U.S. homes in 2022 than UPS and has also led FedEx since 2020. There are three big border-related issues being pushed by Republicans that are holding up any aid to Israel and Ukraine. First, a push for higher standards for those seeking asylum. Second, a change requiring asylum seekers to look to other countries first before requesting asylum in the U.S. And third, restrictions on the president's authority to temporarily admit asylum seekers. House Democrats say tying foreign aid to border reform is inappropriate.
And we need policy changes, not just further funding to process people. So you're going to see that as a continuing theme.
If Republicans want to work with us on solutions, we have a whole host of ideas, a whole host of solutions. We want to address this, but this process is not the way to do it.
Senate Majority Leader Schumer wants to move the package along without any border policy, hoping for a vote next week. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was at the southern border this week, receiving an update on the challenges faced by Border Patrol agents there. His visit comes as Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene reintroduced articles of impeachment against him. It all comes as border policy remains central to an aid package for Ukraine and Israel. The National Desk, Christine Frizzell, explains.
As temperatures turn to freezing, Chicago is moving forward with its plan to build a winterized base camp to temporarily house up to 2,000 migrants. The reality in New York City has strained resources, adding fuel to the fire of criticism from Republicans on Capitol Hill, blaming the Biden administration's policies for incentivizing millions to come to the United States.
This is a national security crisis.
Some have even threatened to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, as others sound alarm bells about criminals and drugs getting into the country, including 118 pounds of fentanyl seized on Thanksgiving Day alone. ICE officials sharing this video from last week of migrants being sent back to their home countries, but critics say the majority are allowed to stay here as they await processing for their asylum claims, which can take months and often years. One reason Republicans in the Senate say they have tied changes in immigration policy to an aid package for Israel and Ukraine.
The American people are simply saying, look, you're asking for about $109 billion for defense purposes, but why aren't you fixing the policies at the southern border where you've had 8.4 million encounters in just, since Biden took office?
Many Democrats say they support more funding for border security. Some even signaling they'd be open to bigger changes to asylum policy and even bringing back the Remain in Mexico policy.
You can always work with the UN High Commission of Refugees. They can be involved. They can provide the security while we process them. So, yeah, we can have a safe stay in Mexico process.
The border security component of this aid package for Israel and Ukraine is supported by many moderates, but progressives say it goes way too far, and conservatives say it doesn't go nearly far enough. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
New details. Authorities have released a report and video of the deadly Central Ohio crash involving a bus filled with students. The report indicates a semi-truck followed too closely, started the chain reaction crash, hitting an SUV, which crashed into the back of the charter bus carrying marching band students. In total, 5 vehicles were involved, 6 people died, and more than a dozen were hurt in the incident. The National Transportation Safety Board continues investigating. A judge dismissing Indiana's lawsuit against TikTok. The ruling comes after the state's attorney general accused the app of lying about the level of inappropriate content for children and privacy concerns. The dismissal is a first in the nation. Arkansas and Utah have similar lawsuits pending. Developing now, the nation's 2 largest health insurers are considering a blockbuster merger that could be finalized by the end of this year, according to the Wall Street Journal. Shares of Cigna and Humana slid after reports the companies were discussing a stock and cash deal. The 2 companies once explored merging in 2015, but Humana instead struck a deal with rival Aetna, which was blocked by a judge on antitrust grounds. Seeing a doctor when you need one, it's something most of us depend on, but a projected doctor shortage over the next decade could make that harder. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski looks at growing concerns over how it's impacting healthcare and why it's expected to get worse.
Thank you, guys. How are you doing?
Dr. Heather DeRoos is a young physician in training.
All right, come on in.
She wanted to be a doctor for as long as she can remember.
Look, a doctor book.
That is Dr. DeRoos at Christmas at age 3.
What is that? Stethoscope.
Getting her very first doctor's kit.
I couldn't imagine doing anything else. It's really just the best job in the world.
After completing medical school, Dr. DeRoos matched for a pediatric residency at the University of Virginia Medical Center. But not all med students are so fortunate.
It's devastating. These people work so hard. We've all worked so hard and want this so much. And there's patients that need to be seen, yet we don't have enough spots for them.
In 1997, Congress passed legislation putting a cap on the number of graduate medical education positions, those residency spots, funded by Medicare. That was nearly 30 years ago. Since then, the population has continued to grow and age. Add to that physician burnout that worsened during COVID and more doctors nearing retirement, with 1 out of 4 now over 65. And you've got the supply and demand crisis we're facing today. How worried do we have to be about this?
I think we should be very worried. I mean, our health depends on us having enough physicians, and we don't have enough.
Michael Dill is a senior data analyst with the Association of American Medical Colleges. And according to their latest estimates, America faces a projected physician shortage of nearly 100,000 doctors nationwide by 2036.
Demand is going up and up and up, and supply is not keeping pace. And a big part of that is because of limits on the training capacity to produce new physicians.
The top 5 states expected to have the worst shortages by 2030: California, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and Georgia. Many of us as patients are already feeling the doctor shortage. Just trying to find a primary care physician for a physical can be tough, with many experienced doctors not taking new patients. And trying to book an appointment with a specialist, you often have to wait for months. And when it comes to urgent care, according to the AAMC, a quarter to a third of people seeking same-day care can't get it. Affordability used to be the #1 reason, but that's changed.
Now the #1 reason is they can't find a provider.
Bottom line is that right now we've got a problem. The problem is going to grow.
Arkansas Senator John Bozeman is pushing to lift the federal cap on residency positions. He's co-sponsoring bipartisan legislation. The Resident Physician Shortage Reduction Act would add 14,000 Medicare-funded slots over the next 7 years.
If you're sick, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. I think we're at the point now where people are realizing that we have to do something about this.
Time is a concern. It takes about a decade to train a doctor, and with the shortage now, young physicians like Dr. DeRoos are already facing long hours and an ever-increasing patient load. Congress did take a small step to chip away at the shortage during COVID. In 2021, they passed legislation to fund 1,200 more residency positions being added over the next few years. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
Angie, thank you. And Rite Aid is closing another 31 stores in a dozen states as part of its restructuring efforts. 7 stores in California, 4 in Pennsylvania, 3 stores each in Ohio, Virginia, and Washington, and 2 stores each in Michigan, New Jersey, Oregon, and New York are shutting down. Connecticut, Maryland, and Nevada will each lose 1 location. Over the past 6 years, Rite Aid has tallied nearly $3 billion in losses.
This week, the United Nations is expected to suggest that countries consume less meat in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I'm with Connor from the Fact Check team. Which country consumes the most meat? Let's start there.
This is probably not a surprise, Eugene, but the U.S. consumes the most meat. The average American eats about 127 kilograms or 280 pounds in meat a year compared to 170 pounds in Europe. And then if we look at beef specifically, according to the USDA, Americans consume on average about 57 pounds per person each year.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot, even though not all Americans eat meat, right?
Yeah. That's a good point, Eugene, and I found a really interesting fact in a study produced in Nutrients, which is an open access journal, and it looked at how much beef we consume. And well, the study found just 12% of Americans, mostly men, are eating half of our country's beef supply.
Okay, Connor, thanks. I have a count for a lot of that, I'm sure. For more of this Fact Check team topic, including links to Connor's sources, you want to scan the QR code on your screen or visit us online at thenationaldesk.com.
So to come here on the National Desk, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington from a sharp increase in anti-Semitic incidents to investigations into the president's family.
Welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day to report on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. The Bureau's correspondents are here to share their insights on the stories they've been covering. The war between Israel and Hamas has Jewish Americans raising concerns about a sharp increase in anti-Semitic incidents here in the U.S. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins, you've been covering this story for weeks. What's the latest?
Hearing the stories, we get the anecdotes, we see the videos of what's been happening on college campuses, and now we're starting to get some of that data. The Anti-Defamation League found nearly 3/4 of Jewish college students here in America either experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism on campus, and 46% said they felt physically unsafe while on campus. That's since the beginning of the fall semester, so about right when this war started. Senator Chuck Schumer had some pretty strong statements on the Senate floor this week. He called anti-Semitism in America a 5-alarm fire, really trying to draw attention to it, while also calling out some members of his own party for their weak stances when it comes to acknowledging this rise in anti-Semitism, this issue in America. We're also starting to see some lawsuits. Berkeley University is getting sued over their anti-Semitism, so the courts are starting to get involved. And Steve, next week, the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and UPenn will be on Capitol Hill to answer questions before lawmakers about how they're handling anti-Semitism on their campuses.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and of course, Muslim Americans as well concerned. State of Michigan, big state in the presidential race. President Biden hearing some words from Muslim Americans as well. He's going to have to really talk to both sides as he gears up for his re-election campaign next year. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Republicans continue to investigate President Biden's family's foreign business dealings. National correspondent Christine Frizzell, what's the latest, and will we hear from the president's son, Hunter, on this anytime soon?
Yeah, Steve, it's a new month, and we expect a lot of new fireworks when it comes to the investigation into Hunter Biden. A couple things happened in this last month. Remember, early November, the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed both James Biden and Hunter Biden. Out of all these months and months of investigation, it was actually the first time any members of the Biden family had been subpoenaed. Now, what they want to do is talk to both men behind closed doors. They want to ask them in-depth questions about thousands of pages of documents that they've been able to get their hands on. Most of these are bank records from Hunter Biden's business dealings with, top officials and companies that work in places like Russia, China, Romania. For a time, Hunter Biden, didn't pay his taxes on a lot of these businesses. He has since done that. But what they want to do is get to the bottom of this, and that's happening in December. But here's a twist. Hunter Biden says, sure, I will come and talk to you, but I will only do so publicly. His lawyer actually wrote a letter saying that, that House Oversight Republicans have used closed-door sessions to manipulate, even distort the facts and misinform the public. So Hunter Biden says he wants to do so with the light shining on him. It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out in the coming days, but it is going to be at the center of the action here on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, we'll be watching that very closely, and also this all rolls up into a potential impeachment proceeding of President Biden down the road as well, so we'll be watching all of that very closely. National correspondents Christine Frizzell, Kayla Gaskins, thank you both for your hard work and your great reporting. Back to you.
The Iowa State Lottery mistakenly posted the wrong winning numbers for about 7 hours earlier this week, a mistake that's paying off for a number of people who already cashed in tickets. Winning tickets would have ranged from $400 to $200, but you had to redeem the ticket between roughly midnight and 7:15 the next morning. During the time the wrong numbers were posted. It's not clear how many people did that, but those who did will get to keep the money. Lottery officials are blaming the mistake on human error. Coming up next here, spreading concern where a mystery respiratory illness in dogs is popping up now. Plus, cryptocurrency scam, one Florida man lost his life savings. What you need to watch out for. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From taking care of people who are homeless in Washington to a home dedicated for female veterans in Rhode Island. We're taking the pulse of America. But first, a cryptocurrency scam that wiped out a man's life savings in Florida.
They were all very professional in how they were presenting this. I had no idea. No idea. Until all my money was gone.
It started when a young woman reached out to him on Facebook.
Started telling me how much money she was making on Bitcoin futures, and that interested me, of course.
The woman convinced him to make an account on what he thought was the well-known token trading site called Curve. Nelson watched his investments double, then triple. Things took a turn when he tried moving everything into his digital wallet. A security error came up on his account telling him he needed to put in almost $100,000 more in order to access his money. That's when Nelson says he realized the site was fake, but by then, it was too late.
I don't know where I go from here. I don't know. It's real tough.
Those with the Federal Trade Commission say to beware of online love interests trying to give investment advice. And before putting your information online, make sure to authenticate the website it's going on.
Overflow shelters like this one, run by Tacoma Rescue Mission, are trying to answer the need. The city of Tacoma is helping to fund this effort, which makes another 50 beds available when temperatures drop. Nativity House can add space for 80 extra people.
I stayed there a couple nights, yeah. There wasn't many people there. It was weird.
Nativity House had 50 unused beds this past weekend, and this overflow shelter had space for 15 beds that went unfilled. The homeless say there are reasons people stick to the streets.
I don't know. Some people don't like the you have to be in by 7 or whatever.
A lot of people are outside because they don't want to get sick and going back inside.
Cold weather shelters are supposed to accept anyone who shows up, but there are exceptions. A third cold weather shelter for young adults is also receiving city assistance. Shelter operators say they expect these facilities will be full as winter approaches and homeless people try to work through their daily struggles.
You're spending your whole day surviving, so you can't do the things you could do in an apartment, but to do what's necessary.
Ryder served 2 tours, one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. After leaving the service, she was diagnosed with melanoma, but went into remission. Then shortly before she became pregnant, it came back as stage 4. Her family says her treatment took a back seat so she could give birth to her beautiful and healthy daughter, Olivia.
Olivia, that was her main priority. That was her main priority. Giving birth to her, that was, no matter that she was sick.
Sadly, Ryder passed away 3 years ago, but her memory lives on with the dedication of this house. The historic home owned by Operation Stand Down Rhode Island has now been preserved and refurbished by removing lead paint and redoing the inside. The nonprofit helps veterans with basic human needs.
We're about to open 10 new units of housing for homeless female veterans. This will be transitional housing where veterans will come from anywhere from 6 to 24 months, get case management services, housing, employment and training, legal services, get them back on their feet, and get them on the road to success.
Still ahead, the stories making headlines next week, plus the word of the year, what it is and why it's being looked up so much. That's up next on the National Desk. New details: an unknown and sometimes deadly respiratory illness in dogs has been found in more states. The mysterious disease was first discovered this summer in Oregon, and since then, possible cases have been identified in at least 13 other states. The illness can be fairly mild, but can develop into pneumonia. Pet owners should be wary of coughing, sneezing, and nasal or eye discharge. There's no test yet for the illness, meaning it may be more prevalent than currently known. Looking ahead to stories making headlines this week, the next Republican debate will be hosted by News Nation. The GOP presidential hopefuls will take the stage at the Fort debate in Alabama. Meantime, former President Donald Trump will attend a fundraiser in Florida for the super PAC supporting his candidacy. We'll be watching for the 2023-24 college football bowl game schedule. It'll be announced on Sunday, December 3rd, beginning with the college football playoff announcement and the matchups for the two national semifinal games of the college football playoff, along with the bowl bids for the other bowls. Merriam-Webster has named its 2023 Word of the Year authentic. Merriam-Webster says there was a substantial increase in online searches for the word this year related to topics like artificial intelligence and social media. Last year's Word of the Year was gaslighting. And that'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Check your local listings. You can also watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thanks for watching the weekend edition of the National Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and from all of us here, have a great week.